You know what's happening to a lot of contractors right now? I think there are business owners that are absolutely grinding themselves into the ground, and they're secretly wondering why they don't feel financially ahead. And honestly, that realization really messes with people emotionally more than they're even willing to admit. Because from the outside, their business might actually look successful. The trucks are moving, the phones are ringing, jobs are booked out, the money is coming in. But internally, the owner feels exhausted, stressed, mentally overloaded, and financially tight. And eventually, they start asking themselves, with how hard I'm working, why does this still feel so hard? And that question right there, that's what we're about to talk about today. Most business owners I talk to are busy. They're booked out. They've got a great reputation. They're doing everything right. But when they actually sit down and look at their numbers, something doesn't quite add up. The profit doesn't match the effort, and it's usually not a sales problem. It's a visibility problem. I'm Shannon Howard. I work with HVAC owners, electricians, plumbers, and contractors to uncover hidden profit, fix those leaks, and help you keep more of what you earn. This is Profit Isn't an Accident. Because honestly, I think there are a lot of contractors who have accidentally normalized burnout. They think this is just business. They think this is what ownership feels like. And maybe this is just the price of success. Meanwhile, they're carrying levels of stress that are completely unsustainable long term. And honestly, I think some contractors are so used to pressure right now that they don't even realize how unhealthy the cycle has become. Because here's what happens. Their business starts growing. More work keeps coming in. So naturally, the owner responds by working more and taking more calls and handling more problems and saying yes to more jobs. And at first, that growth feels so freaking exciting. More revenue, more opportunity, more momentum. But eventually, something starts shifting emotionally. The business starts depending on constant effort to survive. Now, the owner can never fully shut off mentally. And you're probably like shaking your head in agreement saying, wow. You're thinking about payroll and cash flow and scheduling and customers and your employees and callbacks and materials every second of every single day. And honestly, that level of mental pressure gets heavy after a while because contractors are not just working physically. They're carrying the emotional weight of the entire business constantly. And I think a lot of business owners quietly feel trapped, right, inside businesses that they worked incredibly hard to build. Not because they hate the work, but because the business no longer feels sustainable emotionally. And honestly, I think some contractors feel guilty admitting that because they think, well, you know what? I asked for this. I should be grateful. Other people would love to have this business. Meanwhile, internally, you're thinking, you know what? I'm really exhausted. And honestly, that feeling, it's real because a lot of contractors are carrying financial pressure, employee pressure, family pressure, customer pressure, all at the same time. And what makes this even harder emotionally is that most people around them, they don't fully understand the pressure that they're carrying every single day. People see revenue, people see activity, people see growth, people see that momentum that they should be proud of, right? But they don't see the stress, the anxiety, the sleepless nights, that mental load, and that constant pressure of keeping everything moving while forgetting to give yourself a break. And eventually the owner starts realizing that the business only works if I never stop. And that realization right there is so dangerous because that is the beginning of burnout. Now listen carefully. Burnout in trades businesses usually does not happen because people are lazy. It happens because they've been carrying too much pressure for too long without enough margin underneath the business to actually support their growth. And that's the part that people miss. Because when profitability is weak, everything feels heavier. Hiring feels scarier. Slow weeks are terrifying. Unexpected costs create that panic faster. And employees, they feel even more stressful. So sometimes you downsize just to not deal with that anymore, and you think the stress is going to go away, and it doesn't. And the owner responds by working even more. That's the cycle. Stress creates more effort creates exhaustion, and exhaustion creates those mistakes which cause even more stress on you and your family. And eventually the business owner becomes the shock absorber of the entire company emotionally. And honestly, I think some contractors are way more burned out than they're willing to admit. Not because they hate entrepreneurship, but because the business underneath them is financially and operationally unhealthy. And that's different because healthy businesses create stability, clarity, and breathing room. And unhealthy businesses create that constant urgency, that stress, and that constant emotional pressure. And honestly, some contractors have lived in urgency for far too long. So it feels normal now. They've normalized working weekends, taking calls constantly, never mentally shutting off. They've normalized feeling guilty resting and feeling financially anxious despite their revenue. And honestly, that's not success, that's survival mode. And what scares me for some contractors is they think if we just grew more, it would finally get easier. But honestly, growth without healthy profitability usually just creates more pressure, not less. Because now more employees depend on you, more overhead exists, more payroll exists, more moving parts exist that you now have to keep tabs on without enough profit underneath to support all the pressure. And that's why some contractors are doing more revenue than ever, but somehow feeling more financially stressed than before. That disconnect right there is emotionally exhausting because now the owner starts thinking, what is wrong with me? But honestly, most of the time, nothing is wrong with them. The business model underneath them is weak. There is no firm foundation to support them. That's the real issue. Weak margins, weak systems, weak visibility, weak pricing, and weak operational structure. And when those things exist, the owner compensates with effort. And that's why some contractors become absolute workhorses emotionally, because the business just requires that nonstop effort just to maintain stability. But listen carefully, you cannot outwork weak profit forever. Eventually, the pressure catches up. Mentally, emotionally, and physically. And honestly, I think there are some contractors listening right now who have not truly relaxed in years. Not fully, at least. Because even during vacations, if you're lucky to take them, even during family dinners, or even during weekends, the business is still running in the back of your mind constantly. That level of pressure changes people. And honestly, I think a lot of contractors start businesses for freedom, but accidentally built themselves into a prison powered by responsibility. And that hits hard, but it's true. Because eventually the business depends on their energy, their stress, their decision-making, their constant availability, and that is not sustainable forever. Now, here's the good news. This cycle can change. But it does not change through more hustle or more grinding or more exhaustion. It changes through better visibility, better margins, better systems, and better operational control. That is the shift. Not how do I work harder, but how do I stop carrying so much unnecessary pressure? And that question changes businesses. Because once contractors finally start building businesses supported by healthy profitability, everything changes. Your cash flow increases, your stress decreases, your decision-making gets easier, and your breathing room starts returning. And honestly, that's when business ownership finally starts to feel sustainable again. Because success should not feel like permanent exhaustion. And I think contractors deserve businesses that not only look successful from the outside, but actually feel healthy internally too. I'll see you on the next episode. If this hit, there is a reason. Most businesses aren't broken. They just don't have clear visibility into where the money's actually going. So if you want help finding it, grab my free Profit Edge playbook or book a quick session with me. You'll find everything in the show notes. And if you haven't already, follow the show so you don't miss what's next.